Phone off. All right, cheers, Harry. What's up, Paul?
Shut the door.
Yeah.
So you're leaving them out?
I can't remember what I'm even doing.
Are they in order?
Kind of. I've got riots history here. Notting Hill Carnival, Northern Ireland, because we had plenty of riots there, didn't we? Right to protest. Well, actually, I was going to start with that. Notting Hill Carnival. Over the last 2 years, Notting Hill Carnival, over 500 arrests, 15 stabbings, probably more now, and over 125 police assaulted. That's just the last 2 years. So-called carnival.
Yeah, it was
Mostly peaceful.
Supposed to be a happy time, a carnival.
Yeah.
But more to the point is, why has that been treated so different from the so-called far-right riots
Yeah.
of the other week? I haven't seen people paraded on with their images on TV, calling them far-right, far-left, or whatever.
It's axiomatic. It's just undeniable that there's two-tier policing, politics.
I'm not for banning anything, really. I don't like government overreach and banning things. But if that was anything else, if that was a football match, if that was happening at a football match, they'd be shut down.
Yeah.
As from next year, to travel through Europe, you're going to have your fingerprints taken.
I was always brought up to believe that it was the right-wing conservatives that were, at best, fuddy-duddies types, and at worst, authoritarian. But now I've found it out to be the opposite way. It seems to be those that perceive themselves to be on the left want things banning.
Cancel culture.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about riots today then. Well, riots, history of riots, and
I predict a riot. Yeah. I don't think many people realise that there's nearly 100 British riots that have been listed as worthy of...
major events.
Yeah, yeah. And it goes right back to 1189 in our country. There was actually a purge to rid this country of Jews, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah. Biggest one nearest that is 1381 with the Peasants' Revolt. Then you got the 1776 when essentially British colonists were rioting against their own government, which is not mentioned enough that it was a civil war. And then also in that year, 1776, you had the so-called cheese riots, which, have you ever seen cheese rolling in YouTube videos? I've always thought, what the hell are they doing? You got the revolt of the housewives. That was for food shortages, again. The old price riots, that was to do with ticket prices, and they even burnt down Drury Lane Theatre in London. I believe that one. Then you've got the first Bloody Sunday riot, 1887, and that was actually about unemployment. Fast forward a bit, 1970, Garden House riots, that was students, left-wing students. 81, Brixton riots, remember that quite vividly. Yeah. 85, Broadwater Farm riot. Cynthia Jarrett Blackglass was involved. She had a heart failure on police arrest. Then you got PC Keith Blakelock in the same events. Then we got the poll tax riots. Remember them fondly? Again, about money. 1991, Handsworth riot, power cut near Birmingham, which caused mass looting, free for all. Lights are off. 1995, Manningham riot, that was ethnic rioting in Bradford. Manningham riot, ethnic rioting, that was Sikhs against Muslims. So you got those enclaves that were...
That was in Bradford?
Yes, yeah, it was. Hare Hills, Leeds, that was 201, alleged wrongful arrest of an Asian man, but he was guilty. Yeah, 2010 student protests, which were international. Jodie McIntyre, cerebral palsy, wheelchair, and there was footage of the police dragging her a wheelchair and across the ground.
Where was that?
That was, I think that was London, but the student protests, as you know, were worldwide. And then fast forward, George Floyd, Antifa riots.
Who was that? That upstanding citizen from America?
Yeah, I think he'd worked for NASA previously, and he was just going to get his third degree at Harvard.
Keir Starmer seems to be a big supporter of theirs. He took the knee in support of them. So is he a Marxist or?
Yeah, there's that wonderful picture, isn't it, of Keir Starmer and Rayner, potty mouth, taking the knee.
Potty mouth.
Yeah, why didn't Keir Starmer ever come out and say, all right, we've been duped, Black Lives Matter, Marxists, they've been charged, one's gone to prison, siphoning off funds, we got it wrong, shouldn't have happened, but no apologies.
Talking of going to prison, they were very sharp with these so-called far-right riots, EDL as they put it, even though that had been defunct for about 10 years. They paraded people on TV and they were swift, kicking people's doors in and jailing people for Facebook posts, and Twitter posts, and at Hare Hills again. You mentioned them earlier, but there was a recent one at Hare Hills, weren't there? With buses being set on fire, police cars. The police actually run off in that one. Yeah. Where's the follow-up for that been? And also the gangs parading through the streets with machetes and stuff like that.
We all know the score, but they're just making it worse by not addressing the problem. And I just can't believe that Keir Starmer and his whole cabinet, aren't they reading newspapers? Don't they look at any comments in social media?
They certainly seem to be trying to flood Europe with and get rid of the cultures of Europe. It doesn't seem to be happening. Like all these refugees that's coming, or legal or illegal immigrants, for them who's supposed to be fleeing war from Muslim countries, for example, why aren't all these rich Muslim countries of the Middle East taking them in? Because they seem to be denying entry there. Why are they all coming to the West?
It certainly looks like we're not getting the brightest and the best, as Tony Blair promised us. I can remember him, like yesterday on TV, saying, these are badly needed workers for our country.
Doctors, engineers.
Yeah, there's many around our town centre now, top-class engineers, but they all seem to be out of work.
Yeah.
Even if you take off the NHS people, social workers, etc., it's a drop in the ocean compared to.
Well, see, one of the things I keep hearing the left say is we need immigration's good and we need these, and without them, our NHS would collapse. Well, that's for the birds. It's lies. It's pure lies. We have got a lot of foreign people within the NHS, but the percentage that's coming in, like last year, there was 1.2 million coming to the country. We had a net immigration of like 750,000. Now, how long would that need to go on to fill the NHS or fill the vacancies of the NHS? It wouldn't take long, would it?
Yeah.
So to keep bringing that amount of people in and trying to say our NHS would collapse without that, it's rubbish. It's absolute lies.
You can't blame the immigrant because they're coming in, they have financial chances for the most part. Can't blame them.
Absolutely.
But we know there's no such thing as democracy in Great Britain anymore, because none of the important things are put to the people. You can say Brexit, yeah, one thing. But look how
that turned out.
Yeah.
They wouldn't accept it.
Yeah. Which, as you said, over 3/4 of the MPs didn't want it. So why would they try and make it a success? They haven't. It's like getting 10 soldiers to go and fight an enemy. 2 of them believe in what they were doing, and 8 just, I don't want anything to do with this. Who do you think's going to win? We've got a right to protest, and that's protected under our law and the European
Human rights law.
Yeah, Convention for Human Rights. Article 10 protests your right to hold any opinions and to express them freely without government interference.
So the government are completely breaking that treaty or that law or whatever it is.
Yeah, because Elon Musk has had the audacity to call Keir Starmer out for what he is. Now there's talk about trying to ban X, as they're doing in Brazil.
Brazil just banned it, yeah.
Yeah, which is... But our right to protest is that's upheld as long as there's no indecent or grossly offensive material that could be seen as encouraging acts of terrorism. So who decides what's indecent or grossly offensive? We're back to feelings, aren't we, over facts and law, real law.
Personally, I think freedom of speech, as long as you're not calling for someone to be harmed, you should be able to say what you want.
Which is how it is in the States, isn't it? I mean, you can say F off pig to a copper in the States. It's not nice, a sensible thing to do, but there's no policeman can arrest you for that because it's freedom of speech. I'm pretty sure that I've seen videos of people over the last few months not even swearing like that to police that instantly get arrested and locked away. I've seen it in these riots. I've seen people just standing there, being part of it and being accosted by the police, which doesn't do the police any favours.
I was reading something yesterday that the amount of people leaving the police force is at record highs. And again, you've got to ask the question, why? Why is that? Is it because they don't want to be part of this authoritarian regime that's sprung up within the police force? Or the only people who's going to save people are themselves. And people need to start realising they hold the power.
Yeah.
And the only way to stop these tyrants, because that's the only way I can describe them at the minute in government, from carrying out these acts that they're doing, is by people just simply not complying with what they say.
Yeah.
Do not comply. It's very simple, isn't it?
Even the BBC TV licence. If everyone chose a date in the country, say 1st of December, and went, right, mass non-payment letters, we don't require a licence anymore, BBC is screwed. They're already in talks with Channel 4, according to the papers, to try and work something out, rather than just saying, all right, fair income, we'll have adverts on. Join the 21st century type thing. They're one of the most terrible companies I've ever had the mispleasure to know about in my life, BBC. Bullshitters. The other thing about free speech is you can't stir up hatred on the grounds of race, religion, or sexual discrimination.
Which is fair enough, really, isn't it?
Well, there's the big word there is religion. I think religion should be open to discussion, question, mocking, ridicule, everything against religion.
It should certainly be questionable. A big part of what's happening with everything is the divide and conquer scenario. They seem to be really pushing, as in these riots, people were rioting against mass uncontrolled immigration. Somehow they twisted it round to it being people against Muslims of this country. And that's not what it was about at all. I know quite a few Muslims and Asians in this country who are totally and utterly against this mass immigration because it's affecting them as much as anybody else.
Yeah.
So much so, a lot of areas that's been absolutely hammered with mass amounts of people being thrown into is these areas that the Muslims are living in.
Yeah.
So it's affecting them in a big way. I was talking to a lad from Sheffield, from an area at Fairvale. And what they've done there, they moved in literally hundreds and hundreds of Romanians. And there's been mass clashes with the local Muslims there, and the Romanians have moved in. So they're against this mass immigration, a lot of them.
Yeah.
But somehow the media has twisted it around to be far right against the Muslim community. And that's not how I see it at all.
Yeah.
And you talk to a lot of Muslims and they're not. They don't see it that way. But the media have pushed that way. And before you know it, you've got gangs of youths coming out to protect their mosques when the mosques weren't even being attacked. And so they've created an agenda to suit their needs. It's like Germany at the minute. I spent a lot of time in Germany, working in Germany, and lived in Germany for a time. And I loved it in Germany. It was a great place. I speak to people there now, and they've been wrecked through the mass immigration that they've had to deal with. I mean, Merkel, she was the one who said, "Come, everybody, come," and look what it's created. I mean, they've had in Cologne.
That's put in the literature, haven't they, that this is not the way that we treat women. So you're on a non-starter there if you're importing male after male, and then you've got to tell them, well, we don't touch women up and do things like this in our cultures, society.
We must learn the culture here. In France, in British, we have a Muslim mans. They are fighting government because they don't respect the culture.
Women cannot fix it houses. Maybe the better for the woman if you not become equal.
ولا رجل شرقي راح يتغير من درس نرويجي قاعد يسمع بيوم الخميس. مثلا أنا يجي شخص عربي يحكي معي يقول لي إنه أنت ليش لابسة هذا اللبس؟ لبسك غلط.
Shouldn't they've been notified about that before
they got here?
Just seems to be a little bit. And the white elephant in the room is, what are these young lads doing for sex? Are they just going to brothels run by Albanians? Which we know, I mentioned the other week, over 70% of our brothels are run by Albanians now. So is this the place where all the immigrants are going for sex? What are they doing for it?
Good question. Very good question. Sexually active young men, you're going to get, where there's a lot of them, you're going to get a percentage that will take it the most extreme needs. And that's why you're getting a lot of rapes and sexual assaults. But where are all the women? Where are the women immigrants? Why is it just men? Or are they coming here for a different reason? Is it when the riots continue and we have, because there is a lot of rumour that a lot of these men are actually UN soldiers. Too many riots, what do? What's the next step? It's martial law. Now, if our own military won't operate martial law for the establishment, go against their own people and their own families, then they could have a ready-made army holed up in hotels, just ready to arm up and get on the streets and make people do what the establishment want them to do. That's one theory that's been put about. It's not unbelievable.
But this free speech thing, it bothers me that because it's straight out of Orwell's 1984. And I keep coming back to this thing on stirring up hatred on grounds of race, religion, and sexual discrimination. Well, for the Western world, sexual discriminations, that's gone, hasn't it? No one gives two shits what sexual preference you are. Race, again, we all know racism's wrong, whatever colour you are. But religion, it bothers me that I want the right to be able to mock and negate anybody's religion, from Christianity, Hinduism, Zoroastrian, Scientologist, Muslim.
But it feels as though you can ridicule any religion except for Islam. That's how it feels.
Yeah, because I remember years and years ago, there was a cartoon in the Daily Mirror with Jesus. There were probably loads. But you'd always see these cartoons and then skits on TV.
You read the Daily Mirror?
It was given to me as a present one birthday. But you'd always see on TV someone playing Jesus or some Christian thing.
I had you more as a Guardian reader.
I have wiped my arse with the Guardian, actually, once. Yeah, Christianity, that's always been under ridicule. Judaism, I think that's had its fair share of ridicule. But not Islam. And you know, it was never a thing in Islam that you couldn't depict Muhammad as a picture or a cartoon. Never at all. That was another thing implemented by the males hundreds of years later. And it's the same with, there's no Sharia for women to wear hijab or burqa in either the Quran or the Hadith. It's nothing to do with religion. So all these people that you see, and this woman worked at this airport and she won't remove her whatever, it's bullshit because it's not part of the religion at all.
Pictures from Iran in the 70s. It was very open country, and then you look at it today. It's crazy how that's changed. Pakistan has kicked a load of Afghans who was refugees in Pakistan, and they've kicked them out, and we've took them in 5,000, I believe. I mean, that in itself, leaving all that equipment there, no one can be that stupid to think that they could leave, what was it, $85 billion worth of kit.
To take the soldiers out first.
It's just beyond belief, really, isn't it?
When you look at Biden, you could think, well, incompetent, but he had Harris around him, all his chiefs of staff, military advisors. Do you think it's a good thing after 20 years to just leave everything there and just pull out? Yes, sir, I think it's a great idea. Great, we'll do that then. Yeah, seems logical. What, you just backtracking on that, do you really think it's a good idea to leave all his high-tech kit with the people that we've been fighting for 20 years? Yes, sir, it's a great idea. About you, Bill? Yes, sir, great idea. Okay, then. Lunch? Fucking hell.
What's happening in the world today, you just couldn't make it up. It's like from a comedy sketch, isn't it?
So bad that you've got like Elon Musk taking the piss out of Keir Starmer, two-tier Keir. Peter Hitchens, he warned about Keir Starmer years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's probably the most hated British Prime Minister ever. I can't think of
And he's only just started.
Yeah.
What's he going to do in the next 2 years? That's...
Can you imagine Labour when they sat around the big bench at the end of the week? Like, how did that week go, do you think? I think it was brilliant. Yeah. Did you enjoy your holiday in Ibiza? Yeah. Had fucking smashing time, me. Yeah, great. What about you, Diane? Are you all right? Fucking Diane Abbott, mother of the house. Jesus Christ.
I'm not up to her excellence in mathematics, but Labour keep harping on about this £22 billion black hole. Well, last time I looked, the UK is 2.6 trillion in debt. Now, surely that 22 billion fits in there somewhere, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like pocket money, isn't it? 22 billion compared to 2.6 trillion. But they're harping on about this 22 billion black hole that's causing all our problems, causing everything. Yet we've just given 18 billion, is it, to Ukraine?
Yeah.
We've took the pensioners' fuel allowance that saves 1.1 billion a year. We're giving foreign aid to everybody who wants it, including India and China, the two biggest growing economies in the world. Both got space programs, but yet we're giving them foreign aid. And we're 2.6 trillion in debt. Let's put some perspective on this. How can we be giving anybody any money when we're that much in debt?
Yeah.
Where's this money going to come from?
Yeah. I mean, in a national debt, it's kind of doable, a couple of trillion to get back. But the amount that we're spending on just illegal immigration each year, I think it's about 8 million a day the country's spending on illegals.
Yeah, but that's just on things like accommodation and stuff like that. It goes way, way beyond that, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then you've got the legal immigrants that aren't working. So they've got the benefits, housing, doctors, school places, if they're bringing the dependents over, which they are doing. I think there's all these things about, they get all the white goods for the kitchens bought and etc. I think if you're a genuine asylum seeker, then you can, good luck to you, but to work your way through Europe first.
Well, while we're on finances, they say it's costing an average between £5,000 and £7,000 for a fella to get on a dinghy from France to the UK. Now, these people are supposed to be coming from the poorest places in the world. Where are they getting £7,000 from? Why has no one ever asked that question? Where is that money coming from? Because all these guys crossing these borders, if you rounded up 100 men in this town between the age of 20 and 30, which all these men seem to be, and you said, right, give you an offer tomorrow, you can have something that's worth 30,000, but you've just got to put £7,000 in. How many of them young lads would have £7,000? There won't be many, would there?
No.
At that age group who's got a spare £7,000 kicking about. So where are these fellas getting £7,000 from to get on these dinghies, to pay the people smugglers? No one is ever asking that question.
And they seem to be able to keep a mobile phone safe, but not a passport.
So, but that question needs answering, and I haven't heard one politician, one media person ask that question. Why? Where are they getting that £7,000 from? That has got to be answered, because someone has got to be funding them. And then you ask, who's funding them and why are they funding them?
Yeah, that's a great question. Are all the families pooling together? Send the young lad first, and then when he's there and he's got his feet under the table, he will try and bring in the rest of the family.
Throughout history, when has it been known for young men to flee war? I thought it was women and children who fled war. young men go to war. They don't flee war, do they? This rumour mill of a lot of them being UN soldiers, when I say it's not unbelievable, that could be an answer. Because someone is funding these people to get here. And that's definitely a question that should be on everybody's lips. All throughout Europe, this is happening. It's not just happening in England or the UK. It's happening throughout Europe. All these problems, every problem we face today, it all evolves around money and shortage of money. So, how do you get over that hurdle? It's very simple, isn't it? Because all they keep doing is saying they can't afford this, they can't afford that, but yet they can find money for war, they can find money for immigration, to bring people in who aren't putting nothing back into our society. Just being logical, there's got to be an agenda behind it all. Where are the immigrants getting this money to pay the people smugglers? Who's giving them that? They can't all be finding that money en route from fleeing a war, or it's not possible, is it? The money we're funding for, like Ukraine, why are we putting all that money in there? And every Western politician seems to be on the same storyline. We're in it for whatever it costs, right till the end. Like in France, what's just happened in France. Marine Le Pen.
Yeah.
She was odds-on favourite to get in. What did they do? The other parties who actually hate each other just joined together, come together just to keep her out. Labour got in simply because everybody had had enough of the Tories. Not that they thought they were a good choice. And it'd be interesting to see if we had another vote tomorrow, would, after his first 2 months in power, would people still vote for Labour? I think voting, and I'm being a bit hypocritical here, but I think voting is just an illusion to make the peasants think that they've got a say in things. This time I did vote, and I got a postal vote, and I sent it off. And I got a letter last week from the council saying my vote hadn't been accepted because they didn't believe it was my signature. It just so happens I voted reform because I think we need reform. I don't say that as in we need the Reform Party. We need reform in our politics and how the country's run. And for me, reform was the best option that people had to change the status quo. And they chose not to go down, even though 4 million people did. But I found that quite interesting that they said it wasn't my signature. And they sent me that out. I think it was dated something like the 15th of August. So it took them 6 weeks to send that out to tell me that my vote wasn't registered.
How many more?
Now, how many more did that happen to? That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? And if I'd stuck Labour on there, would it have been pulled as not being my signature?
What do you think two-tier Keir's next move's going to be then, Dan?
Well, I think he'll just keep banning and banning and banning things. I mean, his latest thing is he's going to ban people smoking outside pubs. No mention of the thousands of pounds that some of these publicans have spent to make smoking areas for people to use outside the pubs. I used to smoke myself. When they banned smoking in pubs, I thought it was a good thing because you did stink, didn't you? When you come out of a pub, you stunk. But outside, what harm's it doing anybody to smoke outside? I did a little bit of research the other day, and compared to obesity, for example, the damage and the cost to the NHS from smoking is a fraction of that. With all the things that obesity brings and all the added problems.
But the sensible way of doing things would have been just to have pubs decide themselves, do you want to be smoking or non-smoking?
So I think everything's about control. It's just control. That's...
Yeah, because if you can keep the masses away from each other, and then their only recourse to information is from the gogglebox or the corrupt legacy media, you know how people can get a false, skewed perspective of what's happening in the world just by watching TV.
And they will get support on banning smoking because your non-smokers will think, well, that doesn't hurt me.
Mm.
Yeah,
I've seen a
ban
few
it.
though saying I don't smoke ever, but I will stand up for the rights
Yeah.
and freedoms, which is a fair point. And especially as you've just said, it's all outdoors these days. But I would love to know the figures on lung cancer and specific cancers linked with smoking. I would love to know the figures from today versus, say, 1950, 1960, and whether they've actually gone down that much. I suppose you could find figures to suit whatever agenda you're looking for. But, you know, if somebody said, well, actually, lung cancer hasn't gone down that much, then you'd have to start thinking, well, was it worth banning in the first place? Because there's an awful lot of countries around the world that don't have bans on smoking. And you could probably say that, well, are their figures any different to ours?
But it's careful what you wish for, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
even there will be people who will support that ban. There'll be a lot. Think, well, it doesn't affect me, for one. Yeah, it's a filthy habit, smoking. I don't want people smoking near a doorway where I have to walk out. You'll get that support from some.
Mm.
But, like I said, careful what you wish for, because what comes next? Do they ban alcohol? They're already talking about putting a minimum price on drinks. That's another thing they're talking about at the minute, and they've just admitted to. So what does that affect? Places like, where does the working class man, a lot of working class men go drinking these days? It's Witherspoons with cheap beer. So is that going to put a stop to that? Again, everything seems to be aimed at working class people, doesn't it? All these bans and controls
And then, like you just said, they're looking like trying to charge motorists for every mile that they drive. I mean, that's a blatant thing of penalising the poor again. What are working class people going to do trying to get to work? Oh, I've got to pay this bleeding levy every mile. All these things only ever hurt the poorest in society. And that's why earlier when I read you like nearly 100 riots from 11 whatever, they've all been to do with the vilification of the working class in some retrospect, whether you're left or right wing, doesn't matter. It's government's actions that cause people to riot. So when you riot, then they poo-poo it as you're far right or you're dangerous. But if they weren't doing these things to us in the first place, there wouldn't be the need to rebel against it. You know, why aren't we seeing the BBC doing these big ground reports about why people are rioting? You know, let's get into the machinations of where it all started and why these people feel so outcast and vilified in society.
well,
It's just all right.
was it the 2011 riots?
I'll check my notes.
When that happened, and it was in the black community areas, straight away the government come out and said, oh, right, all these people are upset. We're going to look at ways to help them and see why what their grievances are. So we get people now, all this so-called far right, whose concerns are based around uncontrolled immigration. Have you heard one politician come out and say, right, we're going to look into why all these people are upset and what we can do about it? Nothing. Not a murmur from one of them. Do they believe it's going to go away? Because all these tensions that was there a few weeks ago, before they started jailing people and kicking everybody's doors in for being at one of these protests, where do they go from here? Do they think that now everybody's just forgot about it and people aren't bothered no more? Them tensions are still there, underlying. And at some point, they'll explode again if things aren't done about it. So all they've done is kick the can down the road for a while.
And then we've brought in these new laws for the police. As I said, the police have got enough laws already to detain and arrest people.
Yeah.
They don't need any more. I can't see any police force saying, actually, Prime Minister, we need excess laws to do this. They know the jobs, or they should do.
The only thing we can do about the police is to begin now to recruit a proper police force of perhaps 100,000 people who are prepared to do what the police used to do, that is to patrol on foot, preventing crime on their own rather than walking about in pairs discussing overtime.
And all it is this creeping totalitarianism, an infringement upon his liberties and freedoms. And it's done incrementally, year by year. And now we can look back in hindsight over, say, our lifetime, which is quite a long time now, half a century at least, and say things weren't like this then. They were far better. They were harder times in quite a few respects. 3-day week, strikes, troubles in Ireland, for us in England, in Britain.
Right, going back to economics again, all these young fellas who are coming and can find this £7,000, and it's just struck me. I said, like, round up 100 young lads in this country and ask them, give us 7,000, you can have something that's worth 30. And they won't be able to do it because they wouldn't have that money. And it's just struck me again. People can't even afford a ticket for a Oasis concert. Can they? Half of these kids who are going to go and watch them, they don't even know who they are. But the media's created this. Tickets are going to be so rare, I've got to have one.
I'm all right with bands that want to reform for a gig or even a tour. I never thought this.
I've heard that the next Labour conference, that's going to be their theme tune is Don't Look Back in Anger. So you can imagine, what's her face, Rainer, coming out dancing to Don't Look Back in Anger, can't you?
Yeah, it's not a vision that I want to try and put in my mind, but you have done. Thanks for that.
Did you see her moves in Ibiza?
Yeah. I did. I had a little perusal of a jiving.
What did you think were best dancer, her or Theresa May?
I think it's a close one, that. I think I'd have to see them back to back. You know, like an X Factor scenario.
Well, we could have a dance-off.
Yeah. I think it's fine that if you want to rehash an old band, and there's probably reasons for it financially. Hasn't one gone through a big divorce and someone's not as rich as they thought they were? So,
yeah, I'm not saying from their point of view. What I'm saying is, why have the media jumped on this like it's the scoop of the century? There's all the shit that's going off in our world today, in our world and around the world, and yet all the media are pumping out at the minute is about an Oasis concert.
But Damon Albarn of Blair, he also got invited to something that Blair and his cohort, Campbell, had organised. I don't know what it was. Could have been an awards thing. And Damon Albarn says, I saw a dark side of politics for a brief moment, and he never mentioned it again. On Oasis's What's the Story Morning Glory album, the first track, Hello, has a specific part of Gary Glitter's song. Hello. It's good. I can't sing it. I can sing it, but not for YouTube. And they had to pay Gary Glitter and I think, was it Mike Leander, royalties for using that, quite rightly so. But I think even about 10 years back, Gary Glitter had made a cool £1 million just from royalties. So all the people that were buying that album and all the young kids that are buying it now because they've heard about this tour, they've been putting money in Gary Glitter's pocket. It's a distraction, isn't it? Well, everything's a distraction if it's a positive thing from everything shite that's going on these days. So I will be watching how the Labour Party deal with it, whether they're going to try and use anything to do with this Oasis tour to promulgate some positivity for their own political message. Is that the best that we've got? No.
Well, I think we spoke on our last podcast about how we make the country better. And one of the things that I mentioned then was there shouldn't be no such thing as these career politicians. They should have all at least been in business or had their own business or, do you know what I mean, had some life experience. A lot of these people, I mean, I'm not sure what they did, but like Angela Rayner, what did she do? She's deputy leader of the country. Mm. You've got David Lammy. What's his background? I can't take him serious at all. Everything he says is just foolish.
Douglas, David Lammy is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He once claimed that men can grow a cervix, but how problem is this sort of rhetoric?
Well, David Lammy is also, as I mentioned in my Spectator column this week, somebody who, when asked in a general knowledge quiz, which king succeeded Henry VIII, replied Henry VII.
Especially with his Trump derangement syndrome. It's all right spouting on these things about other world leaders when you're in the shadow government, and then you suddenly get the position of, take a sip of coffee, we're on.
Well, he's foreign minister. Mm. If Trump gets in, how's he going to go and represent this country with Trump?
It was all a joke, Don. I was messing. You've got a great sense of humour. Just jesting. When I called you racist multiple times and a Nazi. Yeah, just messing. What an embarrassment. What a cockhead. Dickhead.
It'd be funny to watch though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. I know who's going to win.
Trump would destroy him completely, wouldn't he?
Yeah. Yes.
That would be so funny to watch.
Great Britain has been placed in the third tier of global freedom of expression. Now, that's frightening. I made a note
in the third tier.
In the third tier, along with, third world countries. That's absolutely disgusting. We should be number
tier
one.
2? North Korea? China?
It's crazy, but we should be number one for the exponents of free speech, followed by USA.
People have been prosecuted in this country for speech.
Yeah.
Compared to Russia. And it's something like we've had 4,000 and odd prosecutions. I can't remember what the time period was, if it's over the last 5 years or something. Mm. But compared to Russia, they've had 400 and something. So we're over 10 times more than them.
Oh, God.
And yet, when freedom of speech is mentioned, it's often said that Russia is bad for that type of thing. Mm. But you look at the figures, and we're 10 times worse. They're snipping away bit by bit at people's freedoms. And it's our kids and grandkids who I fear for. Because you look at the changes in the last 20 years, fast forward another 20, and it's unthinkable what situation we could be in.
There seems to be knee-jerk policies, don't there?
Absolutely. It's a bit like traffic wardens. You know what I mean? They've failed in everything else in their life, so they become a traffic warden. and then they're just overwhelmed with power.
Yeah.
And that's why you never really come across a friendly traffic warden, do you? And these are the same. They could not have believed when Bozza got his 80-seat majority. There's no way on this earth that Starmer and his cronies could have, for 1 minute, believed that a few short years down the line that they could be in power.
Mm.
And they're there, running the country. You see him with Macron the other day? They were cuddled up. I thought, them two are bummers. Can't put that on, can you?
No. Save it for Rumble.
Okay, no.
I think... But the majority of them, they're like weird people. You just think they've been through uni, they've been cocooned. They haven't got any social skills, which is part of intelligence. The ability to adapt to different social spheres. They've got none of that. It's like a blank, cold, dark, vacant look. It's like they're bewitched. Or there's just nothing there. No humanity.
I always say it's in the eyes. Look at their eyes.
Yeah.
You go through all these dictators. They've got dodgy eyes. And Starmer is right up there with them. Look into his eyes. He's an evil man.
In that respect, Putin, he's got dodgy eyes, hasn't he?
Hmm.
Now, Putin does look like a baby's slapped arse. He always has to. Merkel's got cold, dead eyes, like fish eyes.
When you think, well, she looked like a Bond villain, didn't she? Yeah. And as her time went on, even her dress, her suits got more and more Bond villain type, didn't they? A bit like Klaus Schwab. Look at him.
Yeah,
he's a Bond villain, isn't he?
Yeah. From what era? Roger Moore era.
Well, just Bond villains in general. They just had a look about them, didn't they?
Yeah, but some villains were better than others, weren't they? I mean, like Christopher Lee, Man with a Golden Gun. You're a great villain. You couldn't hate him, really, could you? Because he was a nice chap.
Christopher Lee,
yeah.
Dracula.
Yeah. Very intelligent. You know his war record? Yeah, you look into him. Very, very interesting for him. And he liked heavy metal. Even in his 80s, loved hard heavy metal. Unreal. I'll edit this out. But that's another thing. You can't imagine other world leaders sitting down with a Bob Marley album or a Led Zeppelin 4 with a spliff going, have a listen to this, brilliant, just chilling out. You just can't imagine them doing that. No. Keir Starmer getting home, what kind of music do you think he likes? Yes, I'll have a glass of wine, darling. It's been a testing day. Tribunals, all that. Yeah, I'll have a glass of wine.
But he's working class.
Yeah.
His dad were a toolmaker.
You told me that. Didn't know I know out about it. Yeah. What, would you like some music on, love? No, don't like music at all. Just put BBC Two on.
I don't like music. I don't like jokes, and I don't like Christmas.
And I don't like the far right. But you know what I do like, darling? Diane Abbott's arse. She was bent over in the Commons today.
That'll have been a sight to save her, wouldn't it? When old Jezza were pumping away at Diane.
Yeah, from all directions.
Good God. Could put some music to that, Luke, couldn't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
What theme tune would you use for that?
Don't look back in anger.
It's your time.
Politicians should always ask the public, what do they think? Because you can't go wrong with the public's
Well,
thoughts.
I think we should have more referendum. So on important subjects that are going to affect everybody's life, there's no way someone who's lied their way into Parliament, because that's what, let's face it, that's what they've done, isn't it? They've lied to get there. And there's no way a bunch of liars should be sat making decisions of what affects everybody's life. Because all these bad decisions they make, half of the time it doesn't affect them anyway. It's a bit like the climate control bullshit that we're being fed day in, day out. All the people who are telling us not to do this, not to do that, is exactly what they're doing. Like, they're all flying to their meetings to tell us to save energy, save the planet, while they fly in their private jets.
Yes. I think everything is going to be all right and everyone's going to live happily ever after, mate. That's what I think.